Good morning, friends. Welcome to another episode of Stitch and Bitch, where we stitch together and I bitch about things that annoy me in crochet and we learn something new together. So today I want to talk about the differences in the way that yarn comes and why does it come like that. I have had a couple run-ins with hanks of yarn where I decided I could wind it and be self-sufficient, I don't know. And it turned into a tangled, disgusting mess and it was a nightmare to fix. So I had to buy a yarn swift. It was a whole thing. But that got me thinking, why does the yarn come in hanks when it's fancy yarn, but then some comes in cakes, some comes in skeins, some comes in balls? Like, what is the difference? So I did some researching and I'm going to share that with you. So first, we're going to talk about the basic different kinds of ways that yarn can be presented. So there's four main ways that you'll see it in stores when you go to buy it. So most commercially made yarn that you get from like Michael's or I guess like Hobby Lobby or places like that is going to come in a skein. So I'm losing my blue, but it comes in a skein like so. So this is the big twist yarn from Michael's, formerly Joann's, not from Michael's. So it comes in a skein. If I take the label off, it's just going to be all wound in this thing, and you can either pull from the inside and use it, or you can pull from the outside. That's a whole debate as well. I don't like to pull from the inside because it starts to fall apart and it's the whole thing. So I go from the outside, but a lot of people swear by going from the inside out. So do you? But it comes in this. This is good to go, ready to use as it is. So that's most commercial yarn that you're going to find in like big box yarn stores. You can also find in both the big yarn stores and sometimes small yarn stores cakes of yarn. So this is a cake of yarn from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For, which I've got a couple of their yarns here. This is a great small business in Charlotte that hand dyes all their own yarn and has a really interesting process, and it's a super interesting place. So if you're in Charlotte, go check them out. But this is their colorway 50 Shades of Gradient. And so this is a sock weight Australian merino, and I got it on super sale. It was really exciting. So this one comes in a cake. So you see it's all nice and caked, like it looks like a little tiny mini cake. So I can just have the drops, you know. So I can start from the outside and work around, or again, I can start from where this little green tab, I don't know if you can see it very well, but where this little green string is sticking out, we could pull from the middle out, which again, same thing as the skein. I don't personally love doing that, but some people swear by it. So this is a cake. This is what you will ultimately end up with a hank once you wind it. So it's all very confusing. Then you have like just, there you go again with the drops. You have just like a ball of yarn. So this is just a wound ball of like some remnant yarn that I got from the $1 remnant bin at the yarn store, which is my favorite place to go. So it's just wound into a ball, and it's just kind of like your old school ball of yarn. Usually you don't buy yarn like this. It just kind of, as you get like remnants, I make them into balls. But usually you'll buy it in either a cake, a hank, or a skein. But it depends. Sometimes I know I have a bunch of the Cascade 220 superwash wool, and those come in more of a traditional ball. So kind of depends on the manufacturer. But the biggest thing is the hanks. So this is a regular size hank. This is a mini hank. So again, Jesus. So you'll see people refer to them as skeins as well, but it's a slightly different thing. So the hank is braided, and we'll take this one as an example. So once we slide the label off, these both also came from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For. This was a special colorway, if you can see like how pretty that is. This was for the Charlotte yarn crawl that happened like a week or so ago. So the hanks are tucked in at the end here to each other. So you kind of pull them apart. So you see there's this loop at the end that this end was tucked into, and then you just unravel them, and it's this circular thing. So the yarn is in this circular formation, and then I highly recommend, if you're doing this, get a yarn swift. Use the yarn swift. I'll put a picture of what a yarn swift is. So it essentially just holds the yarn out like this while you're spinning with a ball winder, so that it doesn't get tangled, because it'll get tangled and it will be a nightmare. Take it from me. I had a ball that I spent like literally, I think I spent like 8 hours trying to detangle it, and it was a very expensive ball of yarn, so we suffered through it, and it was not fun. So learn from my lessons, get a yarn Swift. So that is what a hank looks like undone. So my question is, if we wind it into a cake, often at the yarn shop, then why does it need to come in a hank? Because isn't this just kind of a pain in the ass to deal with? So the difference, like, look how well you can see the colors in this, right? So if it were wrapped up in a ball, you know, just for illustrative purposes, you can't, like, you can obviously still see that it's a very pretty yarn, but you can't see the colors quite as well. So as if I pull it out like this, you can see all the variations of purples and blues and pretty colors. So fancy yarn will often sell it in hanks because they feel like it demonstrates how the fiber looks better. So like this is another one from the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For, and this is called That Valentine's Day. So it is a superwash merino mixed with polyester sparkle, because it's, you know, sparkly stuff. You see, isn't it pretty? It's beautiful. So you can see how with this one, you can see all the color variations and kind of see the different, how it's going to be variegated, and kind of get an idea based on how it looks like, what your project might look like, right? But then if you look at this one from the same place, it's, I mean, you see the colors obviously, but because the label's on it, you don't really see quite how pretty it is. I mean, like, obviously you can still see how pretty it is because their yarn is gorgeous, but you don't get quite the same effect, right? As if you compare it to this friend. So see how just you get that prettier look. So expensive yarn companies especially like the hank better because they feel like it showcases the fiber and it showcases the color, especially in like hand painted and hand dyed yarn. It showcases all the different variation in it very nicely. Because like if you wound this into a cake, you see like this section that's more yellowy versus this section that's more pinky. Like you wouldn't necessarily see all of that variation because it would be tucked inside the cake. So that is one reason. Another reason is that being in this kind of form, or especially this kind of form, puts a lot of pressure and like tension on the yarn. So for delicate fibers, so this one being merino isn't like the most delicate, but like if you had cashmere, like alpaca, or the yarn, the Fiber Studio at Yarns to Die For, which is a mouthful every time. But they have a really pretty camel yarn, which I had never heard of, and now I want it all. It's very, very soft, very pretty. But those kinds of yarns are like silk, or they're much more delicate. So having them in this kind of a cake can put pressure on the fibers and can kind of strain the fibers. So they say that over time, it can cause stress to the fibers and damage the yarn. So they recommend you keep them in the hank until like close to when you're going to use it. I honestly usually just go ahead and cake up my hanks. That's a really weird phrase. But I usually go ahead and make them into cakes when I buy them so that they store easier and are just easier. I mean, but you don't have to. You can leave them as a hank until you're ready to use them. And they say that's the best way to do it. I tend to wait until I have a couple together and do them all at one time so that that way they're ready to go and I don't have to fuss over it when it's time to use them. But this is a hank. And that's essentially why we have hanks for fancy yarn. More or less, it's just to show the variations in the yarn, to really show off the fiber and how nice the fiber is, and then to prevent putting strain on the fibers themselves so that they don't have issues and don't need to, or don't get like broken or stressed as you are storing them. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this one yet. There's only one of them left and she's beautiful. So if you have any ideas of something I can do with 490 yards, it's not very many yards. I mean, it's a whole lot of yards, but you know what I mean, for a whole crochet project, it's not that many. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do with this one or this little guy. These were a special for the yarn crawl that happened, and it was just too pretty to pass up. So I did get 2 of these, so I do have a little bit more. So we'll see. We'll see what happens and what I decide to do. I think I'm gonna make some like bandanas or hair ties or something, because this one is 55 yards, so it's not a ton. So I have a total of 110 yards, right? I suck at math. I think that's 110 yards total. So we'll see what I decide to do with these. And this one I have no clue. It's too pretty and I haven't been able to commit to anything. So I don't know, committing is hard. But that is the basic differences between your hank, your cake, your ball, and your skein. So let me know, what is your favorite way to store your yarn? I personally like them to be nice and caked and ready to go, but let me know what you think. And let me know if you have any ideas for what to do with all these really beautiful yarns, which I definitely have a problem that I bought them all with zero purpose and reason. They were just too pretty. They're so pretty. But either way, so stay tuned. Probably tomorrow or maybe later today if I feel motivated, I will also post a video on the different weights of yarn and what all the different interchangeable words for the weights of yarn mean. Like what is the difference between Aran weight and worsted weight and fingering weight and DK weight and all those things that get a little confusing. So stay tuned for that, and I will post that either today or tomorrow. And yeah, we'll continue learning things on our yarn journey here. Follow along if you would like to learn more things, or if you just like to bitch about things while stitching. And we're here. So have a great rest of your Monday, and I will catch up with y'all later.